still remember that morning like it was yesterday. The air in the office felt different. You know that feeling when something's off, but you can't quite put your finger on it? That was it. I walked through those glass doors like I had done every single day for the past 12 years. 12 years of my life dedicated to that company. 12 years of early mornings, late nights, skipped lunches, and canceled plans with family and friends. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I was the senior operations manager at Sterling Digital Marketing, one of the top agencies in the city. I built that department from the ground up. When I started, we had 3 clients. 3. By the time this story begins, we were managing over 50 major accounts, generating millions in revenue. I trained every single person in that department. I created the systems, the workflows, the client retention strategies that made us successful. I wasn't just good at my job, I was exceptional. My performance reviews were always outstanding. Clients requested me by name. My team respected me. I thought I was untouchable. I thought loyalty and hard work actually meant something. That morning, I noticed people whispering, eyes darting away when I looked up. My assistant, Jenny, couldn't meet my gaze when I said good morning. Something was happening, and nobody was telling me what. I sat down at my desk, logged into my computer, and started going through emails like usual. Client updates, team reports, budget approvals. Everything seemed normal on the surface. But that feeling, that uncomfortable, crawling sensation on the back of my neck, it wouldn't go away. Around 10 o'clock, my phone buzzed. It was a calendar invitation. Meeting with executive team, 10:30 a.m. conference room A, no agenda, no context, just a meeting I hadn't scheduled and didn't know about. I felt my stomach drop. In 12 years, I had never been called to a surprise meeting with the executives. Never. When you've been in corporate America as long as I have, you learn that surprise meetings are never good news. They're either layoffs, restructuring, or something equally terrible disguised with corporate language. I stood up, smoothed down my blazer, and walked toward the conference room. The hallway felt longer than usual. Each step echoed in my ears. I could feel people watching me from their cubicles, but when I glanced over, they quickly looked away. Some of them looked sad. Others looked uncomfortable. Nobody looked happy. When I opened the conference room door, I saw them all sitting there. Marcus Reynolds, the CEO. Patricia Chen, the CFO. David Hammond, the head of HR. And sitting right next to Marcus, in what used to be the empty chair reserved for guests, was someone I didn't recognize. She was young, maybe 26, 27 at most. She had that fresh, eager look that only comes from being new to the corporate world. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless, her suit brand new and expensive. She smiled at me, but it wasn't warm. It was the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "Sarah, thank you for joining us," Marcus said, gesturing to the empty chair across from them. "Please sit down." I sat. My heart was pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. "Sarah, I'll get straight to the point," Marcus continued, folding his hands on the table. "We've been doing some strategic planning for the future of the company, and we've made some difficult decisions about restructuring the operations department." Restructuring, that word. That terrible corporate word that always means someone's getting screwed. "We appreciate everything you've done for Sterling Digital over the years," Patricia added, her voice measured and professional. "You've been an incredible asset to this company, but we need to think about the future. We need fresh perspectives, new energy, innovative approaches that align with the changing market." I felt like I was underwater. Their voices sounded distant and muffled. Fresh perspectives. New energy. I had just led our most successful quarter in company history 3 months ago. "This is Amanda Price," Marcus said, gesturing to the young woman beside him. "She's going to be taking over as the new senior operations manager, effective immediately." The room spun. I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself. "Wait," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "What are you saying? Are you replacing me?" "We're transitioning the department in a new direction," David from HR jumped in, using that calm, practiced tone they teach in HR seminars. "We're offering you a very generous severance package, of course. 3-month salary, continued health insurance for 6 months, and excellent references." 3 months' salary, for 12 years of my life, for building everything they had. I don't understand, I said, my voice shaking now. My performance reviews have all been outstanding. We just had our best quarter ever. What did I do wrong? This isn't about performance, Sarah, Marcus said, but he wouldn't look me in the eye. It's about the future direction of the company. Amanda brings a fresh perspective and, well, frankly, she's more affordable. We need to think about our bottom line. There it was, the truth. I was being replaced because I was too expensive. Because I had worked my way up, earned raises, proven my worth, and now that meant I was expendable. They could hire someone younger, pay them half my salary, and save money. It didn't matter that I had the experience, the relationships, the knowledge. None of that mattered. Amanda was still smiling at me, that same empty smile. When? I asked, my throat tight. We'd like you to begin your transition today, Patricia said. You'll have the rest of the week to organize your files and brief Amanda on current projects. Your official last day will be Friday. Friday. In 5 days, everything I had built would belong to someone else. I stood up, my legs shaking. I see. Well, thank you for the opportunity to have worked here. I didn't wait for them to respond. I walked out of that conference room with whatever dignity I had left. The moment I stepped into the hallway, I felt the tears coming, but I refused to let them fall. Not here, not in front of everyone. I went back to my desk, grabbed my purse, and walked straight out of the office. I didn't say goodbye to anyone. I couldn't. If I opened my mouth, I would break down completely. I sat in my car in the parking garage for an hour, just crying. 12 years. 12 years of my life, and they discarded me like I was nothing. Like I was just a number on a spreadsheet that could be replaced with a cheaper option. But as I sat there, as the tears dried on my cheeks, something else started to grow inside me. It wasn't just sadness anymore. It was anger. It was fury. It was a cold, determined rage that settled deep in my chest. They thought they could just throw me away. They thought I would just quietly take my severance and disappear. They had no idea who they were dealing with. They had no idea what I was capable of. I had built that department. I knew every system, every process, every client relationship. I knew where all the bodies were buried, so to speak, and I knew something they didn't know. I knew exactly how to take it all down. I didn't go back to the office for the rest of that day. I drove home, poured myself a glass of wine I didn't drink, and sat on my couch staring at the wall. My phone kept buzzing with messages from coworkers. Jenny, my assistant, sent 3 texts asking if I was okay. Michael from accounting sent a message saying he couldn't believe what happened. Even some of the clients had somehow heard the news and were reaching out. But I didn't respond to anyone. I needed to think. I needed to process what had just happened and figure out my next move. The thing about working somewhere for 12 years is that you become part of the foundation. You're not just an employee anymore. You're woven into the fabric of how things operate. Every system, every process, every relationship has your fingerprints on it. Removing someone like me wasn't like replacing a cog in a machine. It was like removing a load-bearing wall and hoping the building wouldn't collapse. Marcus and his executive team were about to learn that lesson the hard way. By the next morning, I had a plan. Well, the beginning of a plan, anyway. I went back to the office with my head held high, wearing my best suit and a calm smile. If they wanted professional, I would give them professional. If they wanted a smooth transition, I would give them exactly what they asked for. Amanda was already sitting at a temporary desk near mine, her laptop open, taking notes on everything. She looked up when I arrived and gave me that same practiced smile. "Good morning, Sarah," she said brightly. "I'm really looking forward to learning from you this week. I know you've done amazing things here." I smiled back just as brightly. "Good morning, Amanda. Yes, let's make sure you learn everything you need to know." Oh, she would learn, just not what she thought. I spent that day walking Amanda through the basics. The client roster, the team structure, the current projects. I was helpful, thorough, and professional. But I was also very, very careful about what information I shared and what I kept to myself. You see, there were 2 sets of systems at Sterling Digital. There was the official system, the one documented in our company handbook and training materials. And then there was the real system, the one that actually made everything work. The shortcuts, the workarounds, the unwritten rules, the personal relationships that kept clients happy. I showed Amanda the official system. I kept the real system to myself. "So all of the client files are in the shared drive?" Amanda asked, scrolling through folders on her computer. "Yes, everything's there," I said, which was technically true. Everything was in the shared drive, but knowing where the files were and knowing how to actually use them were two very different things. Our biggest client was Davidson Industries, a manufacturing company that brought in 30% of our revenue. I had managed their account personally for 8 years. The CEO, Robert Davidson, was a difficult man. He was demanding, impatient, and had very specific expectations. But I knew how to handle him. I knew that he preferred phone calls over emails, that he hated buzzwords, that he made all his decisions on Thursday afternoons, and that his assistant Laura was the real gatekeeper. None of that was in any file. That was relationship knowledge, earned through years of experience. "The Davidson account is pretty straightforward," I told Amanda, pulling up their folder. "They're one of our biggest clients, very professional, very by the book. Just follow the documented processes and you'll be fine." Amanda nodded, taking notes. She had no idea that Davidson would eat her alive if she approached him, by the book. I spent the next 3 days doing this with every major account. I gave Amanda all the information she needed to technically do the job, while carefully omitting all the relationship nuances and unwritten rules that actually made things work. I also made sure to document everything I was teaching her. Every meeting, every training session, every handoff. I sent detailed emails summarizing what we discussed and confirming that Amanda understood. I copied HR and the executives on everything. If things went wrong after I left, nobody could say I didn't do my part. On Wednesday afternoon, Marcus stopped by my desk. He had that uncomfortable look that executives get when they're trying to seem caring, but really just want to make sure you're not going to cause problems. "Sarah, how's the transition going?" he asked. "Great," I said with a warm smile. "Amanda's a quick learner. She's going to do just fine." "Good, good," Marcus said, clearly relieved. "I'm glad you're being so professional about this. It really speaks to your character." Professional, that word again. They wanted me to be professional while they stabbed me in the back. Well, fine. I would be the most professional person they'd ever seen. "Of course," I said. "I want what's best for the company, always have." Marcus smiled and walked away, satisfied that I was going to be a good little employee and fade quietly into the background. What he didn't know was that I had spent my lunch break that day doing something very important. I had downloaded copies of every major file, every process document, every client contract, every team roster, and every piece of strategic planning I had access to. I saved it all to an encrypted external hard drive that I kept in my purse. Was it technically against company policy? Probably. Did I care? Not even a little bit. By Thursday, Amanda was getting more confident. Too confident, actually. She started making suggestions about how to improve processes I had spent years perfecting. She talked about wanting to shake things up and bring new energy to client relationships. I just nodded and smiled. "That sounds great, Amanda. You should definitely try that." I knew exactly what would happen when she tried to shake things up with clients who hated change. But I wasn't going to warn her. She wanted this job so badly, she could learn the hard way. Thursday afternoon, I had my exit interview with David from HR. It was a standard checklist of questions. Was I satisfied with the severance package? Did I have any concerns about the transition? Did I have any feedback for the company? "No concerns," I said calmly. "Everything's been handled very professionally. I appreciate the severance package, and I'm confident Amanda will do well." David looked relieved. He probably thought I was going to cry or yell or threaten to sue. But I did none of those things. I was calm, composed, and professional. Because I had learned something important over my 12 years in corporate America. Revenge isn't about emotional outbursts or dramatic scenes. Revenge is cold, calculated, and patient. And I was very, very patient. Friday came, my last day. The team threw a small goodbye party in the break room. There was cake and a card that everyone signed. People said nice things about working with me and wished me luck. Some of them had tears in their eyes. They knew this was wrong, but nobody spoke up. Nobody said anything to the executives. They all just went along with it because that's what you do in corporate America. You keep your head down and hope it doesn't happen to you next. Amanda made a little speech about how excited she was to carry on my legacy. I wanted to laugh. Legacy. She had no idea what she was walking into. At 5 o'clock, I packed up the last of my personal items from my desk. A coffee mug my daughter had given me. A small plant that had survived 12 years of office fluorescent lighting. A framed photo of my family. That was it. 12 years reduced to a small cardboard box. I took one last look around the office. At the department I had built. At the people I had trained. At the company that had thrown me away the moment I became too expensive. "Goodbye, everyone," I said. "It's been wonderful working with you all." And then I walked out those glass doors for the last time. But this wasn't the end, not even close. This was just the beginning. The first 2 weeks after I left Sterling Digital, I did nothing. I didn't call. I didn't email. I didn't reach out to anyone. I just waited. I knew exactly what was happening in that office, even though I wasn't there to see it. I knew because I had lived through 12 years of operations, and I knew how fragile everything really was. The cracks would start to show soon enough. During those 2 weeks, I spent my time organizing everything I had taken with me. All those files, all those documents, all that institutional knowledge that existed only in my head and now on my encrypted hard drive. I created a detailed map of every client relationship, every ongoing project, every potential problem that was brewing beneath the surface. I also reached out to a few people in my professional network. Not aggressively, not desperately. Just casual check-ins with people I had worked with over the years. Former colleagues who had moved to other companies. Industry contacts who knew my reputation. I let them know I was available for consulting opportunities. I wasn't in a rush. Good revenge takes time. On Monday of the 3rd week, my phone rang. It was Jenny, my former assistant. "Sarah," her voice was tight, stressed. "I'm so sorry to bother you. I know you don't work here anymore, but—" "What's wrong, Jenny?" "It's the Davidson account. Amanda sent them the quarterly report, and Mr. Davidson is furious. He called this morning and tore into her for 20 minutes. He's threatening to pull their contract." I felt a cold satisfaction settle in my chest. Right on schedule. "What happened?" I asked, though I already knew. Amanda put together this whole presentation with charts and graphs and industry buzzwords. She thought it would impress him, I guess, but he hated it. He said it was corporate nonsense and that we clearly don't understand his business anymore. He specifically asked where you were. And what did Amanda tell him? She said you had moved on to other opportunities and that she was the new point of contact. He didn't take it well. "Sarah, he's scheduled a call with Marcus tomorrow to discuss terminating the contract. That's 30% of our revenue, if we lose Davidson." "That's terrible," I said, my voice sympathetic. "But I'm sure Amanda will figure it out. She has all my documentation." "She does, but—" Jenny paused. "It's not the same. You knew how to talk to him. You knew what he wanted. Amanda's trying to follow the process documents, but they don't explain how to actually handle Mr. Davidson." Of course they didn't, because the real process wasn't in any document. It was in knowing that Robert Davidson had built his company from nothing and hated being talked down to by consultants with fancy presentations. It was in knowing that he valued straight talk and practical solutions over corporate polish. It was in 8 years of building trust. You can't transfer that in a 5-day handoff period. "I'm sorry, Jenny. I wish I could help, but I don't work there anymore." Jenny sighed. "I know, I wanted to let you know. This place is falling apart without you, Sarah. Everyone knows it." We talked for a few more minutes, and then I hung up. I sat there in my home office, staring at my phone, feeling that cold satisfaction grow stronger. One domino down. 2 days later, I got another call. This time it was Michael from accounting. "Sarah, you're not going to believe this. The Thornton project is completely off the rails." The Thornton project. A major rebranding campaign for a retail chain worth close to $2 million. It was complex, involving multiple departments and very specific timelines tied to their store renovations. What happened? Amanda missed 3 critical deadlines because she didn't know they existed. The deadlines weren't in the project tracker because you always kept them in a separate calendar with alerts. She's been following the official timeline, but that was just the public-facing one. The real timeline had buffer periods built in for client revisions and approval delays. I had created that system specifically because I knew clients never approved things on time. The official timeline made them feel like we had everything under control, but the real timeline had built-in padding so we could still deliver on schedule even when they were late. Amanda didn't know any of that because it wasn't written down anywhere. It was just something I had learned to do after managing dozens of similar projects. "The client is threatening to pull the project and demand a refund," Michael continued. "Marcus is losing his mind. He's been in emergency meetings with the executive team all day." "That's awful," I said, "but surely Amanda can get things back on track." "She's trying, but she doesn't have the relationships. You knew people at Thornton. You could call the marketing director directly and work things out. Amanda has to go through official channels, which takes forever. By the time she gets answers, we're even further behind." 2 dominoes down. Over the next month, I watched from the outside as Sterling Digital slowly unraveled. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't sabotage them. I didn't badmouth them. I just wasn't there. And my absence created a vacuum that Amanda couldn't fill. The team started falling apart. 3 people quit in the first month, including Jenny. They said the work environment had become toxic. Amanda was stressed, defensive, and blaming everyone else for problems she couldn't fix. Marcus was breathing down her neck because revenue was dropping. The executive team was panicking. I heard all of this through the industry grapevine. People talk. Former colleagues reached out to vent about how terrible things had gotten. Clients started calling me directly, asking if I was available for consulting work because they were unhappy with Sterling's service. I was polite but professional. I told them I was exploring my options and would keep them in mind. By the end of the second month, 3 major clients had left Sterling Digital. 2 of them hired me as an independent consultant. The irony was beautiful. Sterling had replaced me to save money, but they were losing so much revenue that they were actually worse off financially than if they had just kept me. Amanda lasted 4 months. I heard through the grapevine that she was let go after the Davidson account officially pulled their contract. Marcus tried to convince Robert Davidson to stay, even offered him a discount, but Davidson refused. He said the quality of work had declined drastically, and he no longer trusted Sterling Digital to handle his marketing needs. 3 days after Amanda was fired, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened to the message, I recognized the voice immediately. It was Marcus Reynolds. "Sarah, this is Marcus. I'm sure you've heard about the changes at Sterling. I was hoping we could meet for coffee and discuss some opportunities. We made a mistake, and I'd like to talk about bringing you back. Please call me when you get a chance." I listened to that message 3 times. Then I deleted it. I didn't call him back. While Sterling Digital was collapsing, I was building something new, something better, something that was entirely mine. During those first few months after leaving Sterling, I had been laying groundwork. Every phone call, every coffee meeting, every casual conversation with former colleagues and clients, it was all part of a plan. I wasn't just looking for a new job. I was building my own company. Mitchell Strategies, that's what I called it. A boutique consulting firm specializing in operations management and client relations for mid-sized marketing agencies. I took everything I had learned in 12 years at Sterling, all the systems I had created, all the relationships I had built, and I packaged it into a service that companies actually needed. My pitch was simple. I would come into struggling agencies, assess their operations, fix their broken processes, and train their teams. I charged consulting rates that were 3 times what Sterling had paid me in salary, and companies were happy to pay it because I delivered results. The Davidson account was my first big win. When Robert Davidson pulled his contract from Sterling, he called me personally. "Sarah, I heard you're out on your own now," he said when I answered the phone. "I need someone I can trust to handle my marketing. Sterling was a disaster after you left. Are you available?" I pretended to check my calendar. Even though I had already cleared space for him, the moment I heard he was leaving Sterling. "I might be able to fit you in, Mr. Davidson, but I should let you know, my consulting rates are significantly higher than what you were paying Sterling. I don't care about the cost. I care about getting competent people who understand my business. Send me your contract." One conversation, one contract. That single client brought in more revenue for my new company in 3 months than Sterling had paid me in an entire year. The Thornton account came next. After Amanda missed those critical deadlines and the project fell apart, Thornton pulled their business from Sterling. Their marketing director reached out to me because she had worked with me on previous projects and knew I could fix the mess. "Sarah, we're in a terrible position," she told me over the phone. "We're 6 weeks behind on our rebranding campaign, and our store renovations are already underway. If we don't get this marketing launch done in time, we're going to lose millions in potential sales. Can you help?" I flew to their headquarters the next day. I spent a week on site, assessing what had been done, what needed to be fixed, and what could be salvaged. Then I put together a crash timeline that would get them back on track. It was aggressive, but it was doable. "I can fix this," I told their executive team. "But it's going to require bringing in some additional contractors and working some extended hours. It won't be cheap." "We don't care about cheap. We care about results. Whatever you need, you've got it." I hired 3 of my former colleagues from Sterling, people who had quit because of Amanda's terrible management. We worked around the clock for a month and delivered that rebranding campaign 2 days ahead of the revised deadline. The client was thrilled. They gave me a glowing testimonial and referred me to 2 other companies in their network. Within 6 months of leaving Sterling Digital, Mitchell Strategies had 8 major clients, revenue that exceeded anything I had made as an employee, and a growing reputation in the industry. I hired my first full-time employee, then my second, then my third. I was building the company I had always wished I could work for. No corporate bureaucracy. No executives making decisions based solely on spreadsheets. No throwing away experienced people just to save money. We valued expertise, relationships, and quality work. And every single client we took on was someone who had left Sterling Digital because they were unhappy with the service after I left. I wasn't stealing clients. They were coming to me because Sterling couldn't deliver what they had promised. That's not sabotage. That's just business. By the end of the first year, Mitchell Strategies was generating twice the revenue that my old department at Sterling had produced. And I was doing it with a team of 5 people instead of 20. We were lean, efficient, and excellent at what we did. Meanwhile, Sterling Digital was hemorrhaging. They had lost over 40% of their major clients. Their revenue had dropped so drastically that they had to do 2 rounds of layoffs. The operations department was a skeleton crew trying to handle a workload they couldn't possibly manage. I heard through the industry grapevine that Marcus had tried to hire 3 different people to replace Amanda, but none of them lasted more than a few months. The department had become known as a disaster zone. Nobody wanted to take on that mess. Patricia Chen, the CFO who had sat in that conference room and told me they needed to think about their bottom line, left the company. Rumors said she had taken a position with a competitor for significantly more money. The irony wasn't lost on me. 1 year and 3 months after I was let go, I got another call from Marcus. This time, I answered. "Sarah, thank you for taking my call. I know it's been a while." "Hello, Marcus. What can I do for you?" There was a long pause. I could hear him struggling with what to say next. I'll cut to the chase. Sterling is in trouble. We've lost too many clients, revenue is down, and the operations department is falling apart. We made a mistake letting you go. I'm calling to see if you would consider coming back. We can offer you a significant raise, an executive title, equity in the company, whatever it takes. I let that sit for a moment. I wanted him to feel the weight of it. Marcus, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not interested in coming back to Sterling. Sarah, please, name your terms, we need you. You needed me a year ago. You had me. And you replaced me with someone cheaper because you thought I was expendable. You made it very clear that my 12 years of dedication didn't matter as much as your bottom line. I know, and I was wrong. We were wrong. Please just think about it. I don't need to think about it. I'm happy where I am. Mitchell Strategies is doing extremely well, and I have no interest in going back to being someone's employee. What if we did a consulting arrangement? You wouldn't have to come back full-time. Just help us get back on track. We'll pay whatever you ask. This was the moment I had been waiting for. The moment when Marcus Reynolds, the CEO who had thrown me away, was begging me to come back. I'm sorry, Marcus. My client roster is full. I don't have the bandwidth to take on Sterling as a client right now. Maybe in a few months if things change. I knew things wouldn't change. Sterling was in a death spiral, and nothing I could do would fix it at this point. Even if I wanted to help them, which I didn't, the damage was too severe. I understand, Marcus said quietly. If you change,